You can start any moment. Thanks.
Yes.
Namaskar and hello
Namaskar.
everyone, and welcome to this winter session of Zoom Dub in 2024. Winter is upon us. Actually, it is Chile Kalan in the Northeast New Jersey, and we are indoors a lot. It's a great time to connect with the community, spend time with the family. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Pandita, Dr. K.N. Pandita with us, Padma Shri, Dr. K.N. Pandita with us, who was born in Kashmir, studied and worked at Punjab University and Kashmir University, and then in Tehran as well. He taught extensively at University of Kashmir and is based in Delhi. I will be moderating this session as a Q&A, more conversational session. Archana ji will be also asking some questions. Dr. Archana Kokru, President KOA. And I'm sure we'll get a lot to learn about the history of ancient Kashmir, medieval Kashmir, and we'll all benefit from this fascinating interaction with Dr. Pandita. With that said, I'll give it to you, Archana ji, to provide a background and introduction of Pandita Sahab.
Namaskar, Sarni. It is indeed a pleasure to have Mr. K.N. Pandita, who is such an eminent and legendary figure in our community. As we all know, we just remembered the 34 years of our exile yesterday. And the seventh exodus resulted in immense devastation of our community. The losses are incomprehensible. And as years go by, we are losing touch with our roots more and more. And we are also losing connection with our culture and language. So, constant reminder needs to be had so that our memories stay alive and we can then transfer our experiences and our whatever we have learned through these years to our younger generations who have not had the opportunity to live in Kashmir. So it is in this attempt that we at KOA invite eminent personalities who have been a part of the history in the past, few decades, and have the depth and knowledge of the history. And we want to learn and gain from their perspective and lead our community to a better future, and at the same time preserve our beautiful past and our heritage and culture. Today, we are honored and we have the pleasure of having Mr. Kashinath Pandita with us. Kashinathji does not need any introduction. He is a very revered and respected member of our community. An eminent scholar of Kashmir, he's a veteran on Persian and Central Asia studies, a dedicated social activist, a wonderful human being. I've just had a chance of meeting with him recently in Jagti camp when I visited the place in December. Pandita Sahab is the recipient of the highest civilian award in India, the Padma Shri. Born in Baramulla in Kashmir, he finished his education in Punjab University and later in Tehran University. He is the first scholar of the state who won a PhD in Persian. The year was 1962. He later returned to Kashmir and worked as the director of Central Asia Studies at the University of Kashmir. Kashiji has traveled extensively and has an in-depth knowledge of the geopolitical and social culture of not only Kashmir and India, but also of Central Asia. In 1982, Kashiji visited the Republic of Tajikistan at the invitation of the president of Tajik University, and he kept visiting Russia, and he later chronicled his visits in a book, My Tajik Friends, for which he won a prestigious Soviet Land Nehru Award in 1987. Kashiji has been awarded multiple times and has received multiple accolades as well. He was awarded the University Grants Commission Fellowship in Central Asia Studies in 1988. In 1994, he was awarded the Certificate of Merit by the President of India, to be followed by the highest honor, Padma Shri, in 2017. Kashiji has authored many books, and Sanjayji will be talking about many of them. Most noteworthy are the chronicles of the medieval Kashmir in Baharistan-e-Shahi, and another biography of the Muslim missionary Shamsuddin Iraqi in Tafut-e-Ahbab. I might not be saying it right, but these two books give us a detailed history of Kashmir prior to the Muslim rule and also while the Muslims ruled India of Kashmir for about 800 years. We've all seen the movie Kashmir Files, in which Krishna delivers a passionate monologue at the end of the movie for about 10 minutes. The essence and the script of this monologue is based on Kashiji's book, Tafate Ahbab. Kashiji's life has been guided by his experiences as a Kashmiri Pandit, and we'll be talking to him about more about those challenges and struggles that he has faced as a Kashmiri Pandit and what he has learned and the wealth of experiences that he has had. So let's start the conversation. I will be joined by Sanjay ji, and I'll be now passing the mic on to Sanjay ji. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Kashi ji, for joining us this morning. And we'll start the conversation. Namaskar to everyone.
Thanks, Archana. That was really inspirational and fascinating, historical timeline. As you know, probably Archana ji knows, I have always wanted a history expert on the Zoom Dub. And today we have none other than Pandita Saab. So it's really very, very a great privilege. And I thank you very much. I wanted this to happen on Zoom Dub. There's so much to know and so much to learn. And I'll just say one thing. When we were growing up in India, we did a little bit of history of Guptas and Mauryas, and maybe some reference to Maratha Empire. But Kashmir history, of course, was not done in schools in Delhi. And Kashmir, I'm not sure if it was taught. But we really want to know, and there is definitely a lot that happened, and as Archana ji pointed out. So without further ado, Pandita Sahab, I'll start the conversation by asking, ये जो Central Asian studies and moving to Tehran, and it's a very different kind of area, right? So how did you get interested in that? And if you can talk about your journey a little bit, from Kashmir to Tehran and what inspired you. You were always fascinated, something, so that we learn more about your interest in that area.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Let me begin with thanking you, your organization KOA, and especially Archana ji, for inviting me to talk to you tonight. It's a great honor. And I have many friends in USA, and some of them have grown old, like I am grown old now. They know a little bit of Kashmir history, but the youngsters, they perhaps do not know as much as their elders know. One thing which you said in the beginning is very right, that firstly, Kashmir history as history was never included in the curriculum of our schools and colleges. And secondly, whatever history has been included is not the real history. That is a distorted, suppressed history. And this I realized only after, to be very honest, only after our exodus in 1990. Although I had been going through whole programs, but I didn't realize that much of it was not the real history. So now we are confronted with two problems. One is that the histories written after 1339, that is the advent of Islamic period in Kashmir, is mostly distorted. The Persian histories, which we have, and we have a good number of them, were written in medieval times or later medieval times. But they are far from the science, the philosophy of history, you know. They are mostly chronicles of Muslim religious saints and Sufis and their exploits and their adventures or their miracles, as they call them, whatever. They are not histories as such, except one, that is Tariq-e-Hasan of Ghulam Hasan Kuihami. That can be categorized as a history. But the rest of them, I have gone through all of them, their original scripts, manuscripts, but they are not satisfactorily in the category of history because they did not know the art of historiography. They didn't know. They were overwhelmed by spectrum of religion and the new religion that had come to Kashmir, and they veered around those things, religious things, and not come out of it.
So quickly, I will interject you, Pandita.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in my subsequent questions about this thing. How did you, if you can spend a minute or two, how did you move to this?
Yes, in my family, we had two streams. One was the Sanskrit stream, the other was the Farsi stream. I got my Farsi stream from my Matamal, my mother's side. So my mamu, he wanted me to study Farsi and as a student, and my elder brother, he studied Sanskrit. So both streams were going on together. But anyway, I was a brilliant student, and so I continued with Farsi. And then I did my MA from Punjab University with a gold medal, outstanding. And then I was appointed as a lecturer in Persian by government of Kashmir. And in those days, government of India, Ministry of Education, they advertised scholarship, 2 scholarships for students to go to Iran for further studies. I applied and I was selected.
I see.
So I went to Tehran.
Okay. So that really explains it. Thank you. Yeah. So
I went to Tehran.
Okay.
But Tehran, when I went to Tehran, the things were different than I had contemplated. Number one, they told us that we do not recognize your master's degree from Indian university. So you will have to do your master's degree from our university first, and then you are eligible for applying for PhD course. This means that instead of 2 years, I had to stay there for 4 years because I wouldn't return without a master's degree. Right. But the fact is that what I learned and what I know about Iran and the Persian world or Central Asia is what I learned from that attending those MA course in Tehran University, because fortunately we had excellent teachers. This was the time period of Shah of Iran. Yes. And the best teachers that were available. I mean, secular in real sense of the term, academicians, top academicians, they were there. And my teachers were. Now, what I learned was quite different from what we learn here. Here we learn only some ghazal, some poetry, and some prose, that's all. That never interested me. Even now, that doesn't interest me. It was the history of Iran, the cultural history of Iran, which was of great interest. And when I opted for that, a world opened. The first and foremost thing which I was required to do was to learn ancient Iranian languages, pre-Islamic languages, Avesta, and
the Zoroastrian.
And Zoroastrian, yes, I had to learn that.
Zendavesta,
Zendavesta, yes, Avesta and Pahlavi. So we learned that. I had to learn that. Then I had to learn the history of pre-Islamic Iran, which is 10 times more than the history of Islamic Iran. So
Wow.
I got fascinated by that history because this was the thing which I wanted to know, which was not available anywhere in India. So that's what I learned. So this gave me a great, good footing for Persian culture and civilization. And
Wonderful.
then I came to know that what Iranian culture is or was is actually only 50%. The rest of the 50% is in Central Asia, which they used to call
Wow.
Transoxiana. That
Right.
means beyond the river Oxus. On
Mm.
beyond there was now
Yes,
there
yes.
is Tajikistan
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Uzbekistan, and
I'm aware because I think the Persian Empire was the biggest empire. So all that culture would have transformed.
yes,
And
it's
before
called the
Alexander,
Achaemenian and Sasanian empires
yes,
were very big,
began.
and they encompassed the whole of
Central Asia.
Turkestan or
That's it.
Central Asia, what you call
And
today.
Alexander beat them and all that, but
Yes,
we will not
yes.
go there.
So
So I
this is
think
my
yeah, we will go to your book, especially the book translation. That is my second question. And Archana ji has a follow-up interesting question on that. We were talking about it. And I'm going to try to say Tuhfatul Ahbab. That is the book by Farsi work that you have translated. And it is about this missionary who visited Kashmir. But we'll not talk more as much about the book. But my curiosity is when you translated this book, what was Kashmir like in 15th and 16th century in terms of what language was spoken, the demographics, the religion? And because we have no idea, we just know the standard approach, but maybe this book can tell us more and we'd like to hear from you.
well, as a curtain raiser, I'll tell you something how I could procure this manuscript. That's very interesting,
Yeah,
fascinating.
that's okay.
Tuhfatul Ahbab was written sometimes in 1571, something like that. And the manuscripts which are extant now, which exist today, are reported to be containing 4 chapters. But all the manuscripts which I could find had only 2 chapters, first and fourth missing. This was in all the manuscripts in India, whether Rampur or Calcutta or Srinagar or elsewhere or Aligarh. I went to all these places in search of this manuscript. I didn't get it. And then in British Museum also there is a manuscript, but this too doesn't have the 4th chapter. I went to the private library of Aga Sahib of Badgaon in Srinagar, who
Okay.
doesn't allow anybody entrance to his library, but he allowed me because I could speak fluent Persian. I
Oh,
was
goodness.
fascinated, yes. So he gave me the permission, and I looked in that in his almirah. I found the book, but again, I was sad to know that it didn't carry the 4th chapter. This increased my curiosity, obviously. Then, by chance, while I was surfing my computer, I found that in the United States, in some university, a Pakistani scholar had got a copy of this. I wrote to him, and he said that he has a copy which has all the 4 chapters.
Okay.
I
Okay.
requested him if he could lend it to me also, a copy of this. First he agreed, then he did not. Anyway, he had gone to Askardu. In Askardu, that was the center of Nur Bakshiya Sufi order. And this Araki, the author, was himself a Nur Bakshiya of Nur Bakshiya faction. So he had traveled to that, and they had left a manuscript there from which this American scholar from Pakistan, he got a copy, but he didn't give me. Anyway, now what I tell you is very fascinating. I was not the one who would let it go that easy. I have my friends, of all sorts of friends, including militants. I got hold of a very top militant person who is the founder of JK Liberation Front. So I got hold of him in Amsterdam, and I told him I want a copy of this book. He said, okay, I'll get it. I told him you will get it from Askardu, from this and this man. I gave him the name. So he said, okay, after 3 months, I got the book.
Wonderful.
Through the
Relentless pursuits.
yes, how he managed to get it, that's again a story, but lengthy story. I will not go into that. But finally, I got the book, and I was so happy to find all the 4 chapters. I sat down and began translating it. Translation is a very difficult task from my point of view as a scholar, because people do translate, but what is to be translated is the separate of the original text. That's very difficult. And then the language problem. Farsi is not my mother tongue. English is not my mother tongue. But I had to do it. I did it. So the translation took me a number of years, about 6 years. And finally, nobody was prepared to publish it because militancy was at the top in those days in Kashmir, and its reverberations were found in Delhi elsewhere. So to whomsoever I met in Delhi for its publication refused it, said, "Bhai, ye to marwaoge humko. You will get us killed by militants." And then it's a long story how I managed to get it printed by Voice of India publication house in New Delhi. That's a long story. I
Yeah.
won't waste time on that.
So,
So finally you got it, and the
Right.
book is with you. The 4th chapter now gives the story of the destruction, 2 things. The destruction of temples in Kashmir, as many as 50 temples. And number 2, forced conversion at the point of bayonet of the Kashmiri Pandit Hindu community.
So this is
The-
1600s, 1500s, 1600s time period.
It was in 1507, about 1577, a
So,
bit earlier. Yes,
so
something like that.
late 1500s. Okay.
1524, 25. That is the time when the worst phase of conversion
Okay.
and destruction has taken
Please.
place. I have not been able to do justice to specific names of the temples, because when they write the name, Sanskrit names in Farsi, they can't write it
They can't
correctly.
write.
They can't write it. And I couldn't read it correctly. But I had requested my friend, he is now no more, Dr. T.N. Gunju, a Sanskrit scholar. I had requested him to identify these temples which this Tophtulabab has mentioned. I have tried to identify, but there is more to be written about that. And unfortunately, he passed away, and the material could not be.
So when this happened, Pandita Sahab, the population was, Hindu population was 50%, 60%, or 20% when this conversion was happening in
I,
1500s?
I
In
think it
15th
should have been.
century.
It should have, yes, it should have been nearly 50% or even more,
More.
50%, yes.
Right.
Because she says that village after village, I carried my Sofis. By Sofis, he means the militants,
Militants.
the converted militants who forcibly converted people. He says that I took this crowd with me. Whenever I went to a village, I attacked the temple. I converted the chief priest. I ordered a cow or a bull to be killed and distributed, beef to be distributed. And then I gave a flag to him, alam, what they call the alamdar. We gave him the banner, Islamic banner. And then he led the whole crowd, about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and went to the next village, the next. And this is the way how conversion was done in Kashmir. This shows that the population in Kashmir not only in the urban areas, but even in rural areas also was
Largely true.
good one, good
Largely.
population, more than 50, 60, should be something between 50 and 60%.
That is
That's
really,
what it
really,
is.
yeah, very, very
Yes.
important finding. Archanaji, I think you had a follow-up question on that,
Yeah.
and maybe we can, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of, when we think about it, the systemic kind of brutality with which they converted the majority Hindus at that time. So Araki was a Shiite. He was from Iran. He was a Shiite. But then he also is either a founder of or closely connected to with this Nur Bakhshia Sufism, which is Sunni, basically connotations of a Sunni Sufi kind of religion, kind of. So they combined forces here, Shia, Sunni, whoever, and their intention mainly was not a missionary intention. It was a brutality and devastation and converting a majority Hindu state into a minority Hindu state. So I would like you to further, give us more depth as to, like you said, that they would first remove the yoni, then they would circumcise them, then they would make them eat beef, then they would publicly humiliate them, and so that the Hindu person, had no choice. It's the same thing. It's the fear of life and honor. They convert. So I would like you to talk a little more about that, Kashiji, because like I
Right.
said, that we are now in the seventh Exodus, and it seems that our ancestors have faced much more brutality than we have.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, After I had translated this book and it was circulated, I received a telephone call from my friend Agni Shekhar one day. He said, Pandita Sahab, tell me one thing. What were your impressions? What impressions did you get when you translated this book? Unassumingly, I told him, my dear Agni Shekhar-ji, when I translated this book, while I was translating this book and reading the text, I was feeling my limbs, my arms, my feet, my body, whether I'm surviving or I'm dead. That was my feeling.
Yeah.
So next day he came to me, he said, precisely this was my feeling. How we survived. That is the feeling I got from the book. How my family, my ancestors, and ancestors of all of us, hundreds and thousands, how we survived. Now, Nur Bakhsh was a Shia religious leader in Iran. And he manufactured a new sect, Sufi sect,
Yeah,
because the Shias didn't have the Sufi sects. The
exactly.
Sunnis have the Sufi sects, 4 of them.
Yeah.
But the Shias, he manufactured one sect called Nur Bakhshia sect.
Right.
And this Shamsuddin Araki was from Gilan province in northern Iran, which is very close to Kurdistan, Kurds. He was a Kurd by origin, by ethnicity. From his ethnicity, he was a Kurd. So he had become a staunch Nur Bakhshia. And when he came to Kashmir, he found that there were Sunnis in Kashmir. Many of them, most of them were Sunnis. This is again a controversial issue because the first missionary who came to Kashmir was Mir Sayyid Ali Hamadani
Yes,
from
yes.
Hamadan.
I remember that name.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Kashmir scholars, Kashmir Valley scholars, call him a Sunni Sufi, whereas other researchers, scholars, and my own impression is that he was a Shia scholar. But at that time, they did not give much importance to factionalism because they had a mission, and the mission was of conversion. So they did not give it a much importance. Although Mir Ali Sayyid Hamadani's son, Muhammad Hamadani, was ideologically against his father, against the thinking of his father, He was a staunch Sunni, not a Shia at all. So there was difference between the two, and this has been discussed by the writers, biographers. So now the question is, what was the objective of Shamsuddin Araki? That of conversion. And he found the majority of population Sunnis. How could these Sunnis be helpful to him unless he motivated them first to his own ideology
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then undertook the conversion?
Absolutely.
That is the point, that he first converted many of their leaders, the Sunni leaders, to Shia philosophy, Nur Shia philosophy, and raised monasteries, and with their help, calling them Sufis. He uses the word Sufi.
Yeah.
He uses the Sufis, and becoming a leader of these Sufis, he harnessed them into a big mission, the mission of conversion and destruction of temples.
So
That's the answer to your question.
before Archanaji goes to the next question, that means the word Sufi is so misunderstood.
Starts
And
with-
we all
starts
talk about the Sufi music
The
and
violence. Yeah.
the
My professor, my guide at PhD, Dr. Safa, was a great scholar. He used to tell us that Iran has seen two scourges. One is the Genghis Khan, the Mongol scourge. Second is Sufis.
my God.
Oh,
This is
wow.
what he has said. So the Sufis have been the biggest scourge to Islam, which
Wow.
Islamic people
Yeah.
will not accept. But those scholars who have studied both Islamic, Iranian, the original Sufism, I mean the Arabic Sufism, Islamic Sufism, the Sufism which comes very close to the teachings of Upanishads, those are different from
Right.
pseudo-Sufists who
This is-
developed later on because of their interests, political, material, and other interests. And then Hafiz, or even Maulana, I mean by Maulana, I mean Rumi,
Right.
Rumi, the greatest of the Sufis.
Yes.
He said, Maulana, what these people call kufr now, but he said, No sado haftad kalib didam, hamcho sabza barha ruidam. I have seen 970 lives, and like turf, the green turf, I have come again and again, I was reborn. This is,
Wow.
he is the greatest of the Sufis. And likewise, Hafiz also said, Sufiyan ki jalvar mihrab و minbar mi kunan, chum khalvat mi ravan, ankar digar mi kunan. These Sufis who make a show on the platform, on the pulpit of the mosque, but when they go in their privacy, they do something else. This was the thinking about the impression about the Sufism has been totally exploited, misused, and these Kashmiri Sufis are no better than what Maulana has said.
Got it. I think Archana, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So this Nur Bakhshia Sufi order is still being followed by some people in Gilgit and Baltistan, right?
In
That's what it is, right?
Yes. In Gilgit, in Dr. Ramesh's book, you will find it. They are found in Askardu and Gilgit, what we call Baltistan, and perhaps in other areas, in northern areas.
And
They are
Shia
called
Shia population in Kashmir is more or less marginalized. They are very small compared to the Sunnis. Is that correct?
I think their population is something about 18 lakhs or
Yeah.
20 lakhs, something like that.
They were always high.
Yes, and Shias have also, although they have perpetrated many atrocities on Hindu Kashmiri Pandits, but in their turn they have also suffered atrocities at the hands of Sunnis, especially Mirza Haider Duglat.
Hmm. So moving ahead, and as you mentioned, we will be having Dr. Ramesh Tamiri as a sequel to this interview to continue this conversation, because he writes about the Kabali raids now, and we would like to know that what exactly happened during those raids. So that'll be the next conversation. But coming back to you, Kashiji, I just want to ask, with a stellar and outstanding career in literature and history, and receiving the highest honor, the Padma Shri, how would you best describe your life as a Kashmiri Pandit, born, brought up, worked in Kashmir, especially before and after 1990?
I'm a proud Kashmiri Pandit. And a great Saraswat editor of Times of India, he once said, he was from Bombay, from Pune. He said, I'm a proud 1,000-year-old Kashmiri Saraswat Brahmin. I'm proud to be a Kashmiri Pandit because I have the entire history of 10,000 years, a baggage on my shoulders. I cannot divest myself of this huge baggage. It moves with me. It shapes my thinking. It shapes my whole vision. And I feel very happy that I was born and brought up in this culture, of great culture and civilization. Kashmir is a culture. Kashmir is not mere the mountains and rivers and glaciers. Kashmir civilization is a huge history, a big history. It's a golden part of human history, Kashmir, right from the beginning. So, in present context, I see that we have not been in a good phase of history after 1947. It was not a good phase of history because not that we lost the power, political power that we had lost in 1339. But in 1947, if we look back, that was the beginning when we were going to lose our very identity and the land where we had been living for 10,000 years. Because as long as the Kashmir freedom movement was going on under the guidance of National Conference, it was directed against Dogra rule up to 1947. But after 1947, it was directed against us.
Got it, yeah.
And we are still the victims of that thinking, that mindset.
And we were never the rulers. Dogras were the rulers. We were just the, the intellectual class या whatever आप कह लो. लेकिन princely state तो कश्मीरी पंडित था ही नहीं उस time.
It was only 100 years, 1846 to 1946, that we saw physical peace, physical safety, and we had given up that sense of slavery, serfdom. Correct. That we had given up, only 100 years. And after there was a relapse. After 1947, we passed on into far worse stage of history. I will not.
तो एक थोड़ा सा चेंज करते हैं नेक्स्ट सवाल. एंड ये जैसे आपने बोला कि Kashmir history is so rich and golden times were there, and we all know about Lalitaditya, who was one of the greatest emperor. My understanding is 7th, 8th century. And then the decline happens, and we have Hamdanis, and then we have this Iranian Sufi order conversion. So it is a very big topic to talk about, and I understand the time limitation. But can you just give us some sense from 8th century at its best time, uh, the Kashmir, how it stood there, and the population in my mind was Hindu Buddhist. Buddhism was largely all over India, so Kashmir should have some Buddhist, flavor also. So from 8th century, the main triggers that led to 99% population being Muslim. 8th century was not a Islamic population, my understanding.
No.
And then in maybe from 8th century to 2000, it is almost 99% in the Kashmir. It's all Muslim demographics now. So main trigger events, if you can just throw some light, please.
Yes, Buddhism was accepted by Kashmiri kings and queens.
Yeah.
And then we say secularism. I think the Hindus of Kashmir were the most secular in that sense, because when Buddhism came, we embraced it.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
respected Buddhist thought. We helped in establishing Buddhist conventions, Buddhist ideology. We
Yes.
built stupas and
Yes.
all viharas. And you have the names of viharas everywhere in Kashmir.
Bridge Bihar.
Yes, we have viharas everywhere you find the viharas. These are the Buddhist relics.
Yes.
So there was no tussle, never happened between Hindus and the Buddhists in Kashmir. Rather, Kashmiri Hindus turned Buddhists, went as missionaries to Central Asia, to Mongolia,
And
to Tibet, and to other places. They spread out in the whole of Central Asia. So Kashmir had a glorious period. The Lalta Aditya's time was really a golden period of Kashmir. The reason why Lalta Aditya led his expeditions in the north, Central Asia, was because the Central Asian predators and nomads would often come and attack the borders of Kashmir and disturb peace in Kashmir. Therefore, to chastise them, to punish them, he had undertaken a huge campaign of Central Asia,
correct.
Tibet, and then he came down back after punishing them for a long time.
Till Afghanistan, I think. Till Afghanistan, his empire.
Oh, yeah.
And
After Iran,
Afghanistan was a part of Kashmirian
part of
Empire.
Kashmir.
Correct.
Yes, Gandhara, and do you know Queen Dida was related to the Afghan king family, royal family. So we had connections with them. We had connections with the Shahi rulers of Kabul. They were our kings. So Afghanistan, Gandhara, and Gandhara is the name from where they have taken it from Mahabharata, Draupadi's name, Gandhari,
Absolutely.
Gandhari.
Very. Mhm.
And then the Balkh, which is in Rig Veda, is Bakhri in Balkh, where we have the biggest vihara, which was called in Persian Nav Bihar or Nava Vihara. And this was the place where most eminent Buddhist scholars and priests were delivering sermons. And they were Kashmiris turned Buddhists, and their name was Pramukh. They were the Kashmiri Pramukhs. Pramukhs means the leading person.
Yes,
We
correct.
had the Pramukhs from Kashmir. And the Pramukhs, when they were converted, when Abbasid caliphs attacked them and converted them, they changed their name. From Pramukh, they became Barmak. And then we have in English Barmecides. You have the Barmecides. They were taken to Baghdad, where the Caliph Mamun Rashid, he found them a brilliant people, intellectuals and brilliant, all very good debaters and knowledgeable people. He made them a minister. Abu Sahal was, after conversion, his name was Abu Sahal Barmak. He instituted a translation house called Baitul Hikmat, the house of knowledge, where he ordered that all the polyglots means people who know more than one languages
Language.
of the empire, of the Abbasid empire, were collected, who knew how to translate the Greek into Arabic. So some Indian scholars also went into that Batul Hikmat, and they translated the great Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, Galen, Longinus, and others from Greek into Arabic. And that stuff went to the Roman Empire, and from Roman Empire
Fascinating.
to Europe. And
Fascinating.
then you have the Renaissance of
Then Europe's dark
Renaissance.
ages were lifted.
Renaissance.
Europe's dark ages were
with
lifted.
the with the hard work, with the hard work of
So, so
Kashmiri
Kashmir
Pandits,
का
yeah.
तो ये परिवार जो
This
कश्मीर
was
का,
the Kashmiri from Balkh in Afghanistan.
but how did the 9th century, 11th century, 14th? So how did this main events that changed the demographics of Kashmir? उसके बारे में कुछ कह सकते हैं main events के बारे में?
Number one is the attack, the expedition of Mongols. The Mongols disrupted the Silk Route trade with which Kashmir was connected, and that spelled disaster for Kashmir economy.
Okay.
So much so that King Harsha had to order the melting of the golden
coin.
and copper coin, make them
Coins
coins
at
because
that time,
he
yeah.
had no money in his treasury.
Right.
So economic loss was
Okay.
one of the reasons of weakness, becoming weak.
Empire becoming
Hindu
weak.
empire becoming
Right.
very weak. That is one thing.
Mhm.
Second thing was the rise of Damras. Damras means local commanders. They started a war of rivalry between themselves, the Damras, and they weakened the empire. They weakened the centrality of Kashmir Hindu empire. And the Damras, the Chaks were the Damras, the Chaks and the Damras, and they were originally, Chaks were originally Hindus. Chak is the deformed pronunciation of chakra. And Kaji Chak, who was a great supporter of this Shamsuddin Araki in conversion, he was originally a Hindu, and his original name was Kanchan Chakra.
Oh yes.
Kanchan means gold.
Yes.
So Kanchan Chakra became Kaji Chakra. So this was the second reason, the rise of Damras. Economy, rise of Damras, and the disintegration within the Kashmir Hindu society polity itself, that was also responsible for large-scale conversion.
Any major invasion? Any major invasion? Like just say
There was no major invasion. No, there was no major invasion. No Arab horsemen with swords and bayonets came to Kashmir.
like in
The missionaries.
Mhm.
Like in Central Asia, Mesopotamia, elsewhere, Iran, nobody came to Kashmir with a sword on a horseback. No, but the missionaries came with arms which were much worse and lethal than the sword. So that's what happened. You see,
And then basically, I mean, just to continue that thought, so 14, 15, 1600 में बढ़ता चला गया. Then by maybe
yes. And then
1700 तक it was.
these people, for instance, Shamsuddin Araki, he opened an open langar. Open langar for everybody. So he would collect funds, collect material, rice and atta and all that, and serve them. They were poor, they were hungry people, and they accepted his faith. That was also one of the aspects which
Who
you
was
will
funding
read.
him? Who was funding him? How was he getting the money?
He was taking it
getting
from
the most of the landlords, most of the damras, most of the commanders.
from
They
the
very,
source itself.
you know, the Kaji Chak gave him all the property he had. even the ornaments of his woman folk of his family, they gave him all those ornaments. So he became a rich man, and he propagated with that financial support from the people, from their commanders who gave them, because commanders wanted political supremacy, power, and the power was vested in Shamsuddin Araki and his preachings. So they wanted to take it over,
And
take out.
successors of Lalitaditya were not as strong, or as they were weak, because
No,
he did not have sons who were.
they were not strong. They had not good ministers,
Right.
and they were immoral also.
Empire.
They lost their personality and that uh, royal aura, what they call, and they began to mix with the commoners and ordinary people, and uh, morally they became very,
The trip, yeah.
Corrupt.
very
Corrupted.
corrupt, very corrupt.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Archana ji. I was, sorry, I was taking your time. Go ahead.
Not at
yes,
all, not
that's
at all. It is, I don't know, even if we had like a few more hours,
Oh.
this is becoming a very fascinating conversation. Um,
yes. The the point is that it's a very subtle point. When any group, any person converts from his original faith to a new faith, he is under psychological pressure
Yes.
because he has to prove
True.
to the new community which he joins that he is more loyal than the king.
Holier than the
So,
Pope.
holier than
yeah,
thou, yes.
holier than thou, than thou. So he has to prove it. Therefore, in that process of proving, these who had converted, they perpetrated
More
atrocities on
sides,
their
yeah,
previous co-religionists.
sure.
That's about Baharistan Shahi writes that 18,000 prominent families, the heads of the prominent families of 1,800 clans, I mean Kashmir, Gotra of Kashmir, they were ordered to assemble and murdered in one day. This
Yes.
is what Baharistan Shahi writes. So you can imagine how many thousands it means, 1,800 families of top leaders and their relatives. So this was the process of proving that they are more loyal than the king, more holier than they would perpetrate atrocities. Sahabat did the same thing. For instance, the minister of uh, Sultan Sikandar
Butchikan,
Butchikan.
yeah.
He was one of the worst triggers.
Same
Yes.
Chida, isn't it
Even
in his
today,
time? Uh-huh.
even today, I would put it in a very mild words. Even today, any of us in a position of power would do the same with those who are the lesser gods, who would do the same with lesser gods.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
If they have the
Yes, where
chance, yes.
we would not we failed to understand the real problems what we had, and even today we fail to understand our real problems. We have many serious problems in our community, which social problems. Our youth are not getting favorable partners. Our girls and men, boys, they are becoming overaged. They are not getting partners. They are not getting jobs. So there's
That's
a
another
social problem.
conversation. That's another conversation. And
That is
Archana ji and I talk
those
about
are,
it, but go ahead.
yes, those are
That's a
challenges
different
which
topic.
Yeah,
we have to face as a community. These are the ongoing issues in, the context of, the newer generation now. And yes, do need to talk about that. So going back, I just wanted to touch base, kind of talk about your efforts that as a person, as an individual, you have spent years presenting the facts regarding our genocide, to the world community. You have spoken at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. You have debated with many prominent Muslims on the other side. You've talked at many universities globally, presenting the facts and whatnot. I just want to ask you, with all your efforts and the efforts of so many Kashmiri Pandits who have been working hard to kind of change the perspective or the narrative of the world today, do you think that we have been able to change the perspective worldwide in any way? Because just recently, I can tell you is that when Kashmir Files was released, and it was obviously after 3 decades of our, the exile and the exodus, we were surprised to know that many in the Indian community did not know of 1990 and what happened to Kashmiri Pandits. So, what has been your take on this? Where have we reached, and has the world community acknowledged, if at all, even a little bit, what has happened to us?
uh, Archanaji, you are right. I have made small contribution after 1990 of our exodus. But one thing I must tell you, I was motivated only by one principle, and that was sanskara. I accepted that I have the sanskara. My sanskara bids me serve the community without thinking, without asking, without telling. Do it silently. That's what I have been doing. We came we came out of Kashmir in we were thrown out in 1990. And at that time, an idea was developed that we should have some sort of a union, something, and we must think about our future. So we started working with Pan Kashmir. And I happened to be one of the founders of Pan Kashmir. There were others also. They worked in their own fields. I worked in my own field. I was asked in 1990, summer, I was asked to go to USA and apprise our community fraternity what was happening in us. Though they were aware, they knew it, but my presence would make a big difference. I was selected not for any particular reason, but because actually it was late. My late friend Dr. Tang was supposed to go because she was far more conversant with Kashmir situation than I was, though we were very close friends and colleagues in the university also. But he didn't have the travel documents. I had, so I went. I was sent. So I did first survey and the contacts and all that. So Pan Kashmir started with the slogan of homeland. We want a separate homeland. Academically speaking, or historically speaking, the fact is that we have never found comfort and peace under Muslim rule in Kashmir. Because, not that the Muslims are bad, but because the fundamental teaching in Islam is to decimate what they call kufr
Just
or atheism. Now, what is kufr? It is debatable. But they thought that we were the kafirs, we were the atheists. So it's very difficult. And I thought at that time in 1990 that if at all a separate homeland was given to us, perhaps we would live a happier life, a peaceful life. That was the idea. But it was a, I mean, a just a loose thinking,
thought.
loose
Yeah.
off the cuff,
It
loose
was, yeah.
thinking, not a very serious. Anyway, after a few years, after some years, 6, 7 years, I began to rethink, and I had other thoughts also. Anyway, that's the story closed. But in Geneva, I later on started going to Geneva, because first time they sent me to Geneva, and then I developed my own contacts in Geneva, my own uh, associations with NGOs, and I started, and I went on for a long time, for many years, about 15 years. I went on attending the sessions there. I was very much making interventions at least twice a year, thrice a year. And in Geneva, we often used to meet Kashmiri, pro-Pakistan Kashmiris. And the leader of them was one Mr. Fai, who comes from Soybug in Vadgam Tehsil.
Mm.
And we became friends, on coffee tables and in the dining table. We were friends. We would eat together, go together, talk together, joke together. Oh, inside the session, we would fight against one another. We would throw mud on one another, and when outside, we would have coffee together. Pai is a nice guy, a very lovable person, good to talk to, very humble, very polite, very nice, very well educated, and a die-hard Jamaat Islami. The first two of them who were trained by late this Muslim leader in Kashmir, what was his name? So Jamaat Islami leader one was Fai, the other was his. I'll get his name just now.
Sure, no problem.
So yes, so Fai once told me, Dr. Pandita, what do you want? What do you want to get from here? What do you want? What do you get from joining India, from supporting India?
Wow.
So I said, Fai, maybe he'll also. I said, if you would ask secession from India and accession to USA, UK, Germany, there would be great sense in that. But you are asking accession for Pakistan, which will not give you even a morsel of food. Where are you going? Where are you taking us? Just joking. So we had to confront these people also. What they said, we had to contradict it. Without cutting it short, in two things, we succeeded. I may say that I made a contribution in that. I'm not claiming, but in the process of things. Number one was Pai and Co. They were trying to tell the world, tell the United Nations that this was a freedom struggle in Kashmir, where the freedom fighters were fighting against occupational forces of India. This we succeeded in scuttling their slogan. And the world today knows that in Kashmir, there are terrorists, militants, and fundamentalists who are not fighting any freedom struggle, but they are pursuing the terrorist and fundamentalist philosophy. So in this one, we defeated them. And this was even accepted by a staunch JKLF leader, Hashim Qureshi. He asked a question to these freedom fighters, so-called freedom fighters. What did you gain? What have you gained after fighting, after so much of killing? What have you gained in Kashmir? Not a single inch of land. That's
Right.
one thing. The second thing, which we were able to do on community level was that I put a question to the working group on minorities in the United Nations Human Rights Commission
Mhm.
to define our status in the in the overall composition of Indian civil society.
Mhm.
That means I told them Indian Constitution accepts mostly four communities as minorities.
Mhm.
Number one is Muslims.
Mhm.
But the Kashmir J&K Constitution does not accept any
Mhm.
community. There's
Agreed.
no word minority in
There's
that
no word, yeah.
constitution at all.
I did not.
Now, we have our own constitution, but we don't have the minority status.
And we are
And now
minority.
we are Indian citizens, but the Muslims have a minority status. This means that when we ask for our privileges, they say you are in a majority community, no privilege. And when we say we are in a minority, they say we don't recognize minority in Kashmir, so no privileges. But a Muslim, and he goes to Delhi, I am in minority, he gets the privilege. In Kashmir, I am in majority, he gets the privileges.
Bilkul, bilkul.
So this was an anomalous situation. I put this question to the working group. For 2 years, they debated it. I myself took part in those debates. And finally, I was successful in convincing them that one more item of definition has to be added to the corpus of definition of minorities. And that one definition was a reverse minority.
The reverse
That
minority.
means a minority which is locally in a minority,
Minority.
but on national level,
National.
it's a
It's a
majority.
majority.
So they inserted this definition, and if you look in the documents, they're written in the brackets as reverse minority, as Kashmiri Pandits.
Pandits.
It's written there. So
Written where? Written where? Written where?
in the documents of United
Okay,
Nations
United Nations.
Human Rights, in the working group of the proceedings of the working groups of human rights on minorities. So in all United Nations documentation, they use Kashmiri Pandits as reverse minority. That was the second thing which we could do. Now, the other part of it, after having done this much work at the United Nations Human Rights in Geneva, we approached the National Human Rights Commission for two things. Number one, for genocide. Number two, definition of inclusion as minority, as reverse minority, and privileges attached to it. Both of these requests were turned down by the National Human Rights Commission.
Yeah.
Because National Human Rights Commission chairman is always appointed by the government from the group of retired Chief Justices of India.
Oh.
The rest is history.
We need not say anything else.
Okay. So couple of, that was really amazing information actually. Reverse minority ka to bilkul malum nahi tha. I think genocide ka, we had some idea, right, Archana ji, that it was turned
We
down.
did. There have been a lot. There has been a lot of effort and work done in that direction, but so far we have not succeeded.
Succeeded.
I
It is
know.
the inclusion, the language, and the inclusion of what is genocide. You know, they have these numbers and this and that, and we don't meet that criteria. And then a lot of discussion, but
Yes.
we have not really
It's a,
moved. But
Sanjay ji, I think my hunch is that my sixth sense is that after the publication of Dr. Tamiri's book,
it
I
might
think
push.
our
Divided.
case for genocide becomes very strong. Because
Yes.
such details are not to be found
available.
anywhere. Not to be found anywhere.
Great to know that.
Yes.
मैं एक और आपसे वो कहना चाहता था, जैसे आपने बोला कानून कश्मीर का, even my personal feeling is also for a non-Muslim group of people to live in a Muslim majority area, if it is not impossible, it is extremely difficult. I have not seen anywhere in the world if that is happening today, where there is a dominant.
I have a different take on this, Sanjay.
But let me
It
finish.
can happen. The state of Israel is
No,
existing.
state of Israel, but state of Israel, Jewish people in that part are a majority. They are not a minority. I'm saying
The point is that if we had the support of the world community and the government of India and stuff, it could happen.
so.
It's not unheard of.
It is not. So point you're making is government of India will support, let's say 5% Hindus who will live happily in Kashmir Valley. I think it is very hard to raise a child, raise a family, because at that level in the school and the high school, the discrimination, the feeling of a second, you are not. It's very different. I think Western societies have done it. Whether you are in England or Germany or USA, your child goes to a school here. I don't want to say this is a problem with Abrahamic religions, but at least maybe in what happened in South America in 60, Abrahamic religions have had that uh, you know issue. To Sanatan Dharam is different. So anyway, that's a different discussion. So it's an Abrahamic religion thing in my mind, but we will not discuss that because this can go on for next
For a
2
long
hours.
time.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to.
Let's just conclude.
So I have some
You're
thoughts.
right. Yes, you're right. You're right. It is the fundamental philosophy about life,
Yes, yes,
world,
yes.
creation,
Punarjanma.
existence,
Mhm.
punarjanma, life after, so many things. You know, we have we have a different philosophy,
Yes,
and the two philosophies cannot
yes.
be
Yes.
at par.
Let's leave it at
Cannot
that.
be at are not
Let's
at par.
let's leave
At
it
par.
at that. So you have seen so much of Iran and Islamic world and India and in the life also. Your life experience is much richer than mine or Archana ji's. So Kashmir in a big frame has changed in terms of Article 370 chala gaya, ye ho gaya. What is your thought? And now there are a lot of discussion on this of things happening in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years in Kashmir. I know nobody has a crystal ball, but based on India, based on Indian political system, what do you see happening in Kashmir? And what should happen in your mind? So that is my wrap-up question.
You see, as of today, India is a democratic country and so-called secular.
Uh-huh.
Let us lay emphasis on democratic. See, democracy means power rests with the people.
Yes, yes.
That is true about any part of India, including Kashmir. So power will always be with the people. In Kashmir Valley, you have 99.9% Muslims. The power will be with them. And during last 30, 40 years, this Muslim population has been radicalized beyond comprehension. You cannot imagine. It's very difficult, rather impossible, to reconvert them to normal approach to religion. This
Secular.
is an
Yes.
Secular approach, yes.
yes, this is an abnormal. They are in abnormal situation, status of religious power from emanating from religion.
Mm.
So our Indian leadership does not understand Islam, or they do not want to understand Islam. One of the two things. And both things are very harmful and dangerous. We are a small community, mostly educated, so much so that even in exile, our women folk, though they were living a life of penury, they sold their ornaments, and spent the money for the education of their children.
Bilkul, bilkul, 100%.
This is a rarest of the rare example. This shows that by sanskara, we are given to knowledge, search of knowledge. That's why when we prayed to Saraswati, we requested her to give us nothing, not material world, not material benefit, but vidya. Aham vidya demahe. Give me the alms, give me the gift of vidya.
Vidya.
Now, this whole community I take is the inheritor of this love for knowledge, respect for knowledge. Knowledge is to be respected. Therefore, I think that our people, our younger generations, should not be mesmerized by the name Kashmir, Kashmir's beauty, Kashmir's nature, mountains and glaciers and all that. There are far more beautiful places in the world if you talk of physical geography.
I agree.
Therefore, they must stick to the pronouncement of Saraswati. Go in search of knowledge wherever you go. And number two, I tell you with authoritatively, my dear Sanjayji and my dear Archana, look at history. Diasporas have made great cultures, civilizations. You are American state. You are Parsi state.
Yeah.
Today, Tata rules India.
Yeah,
Half of Indian government means Tata,
Correct.
and he's a Parsi.
He's a Parsi.
And you are the diaspora, and you are the inheritors of those pramukhs of bulk. You can raise a strong diaspora and a strong civilization. I can visualize that a day comes when one among our fraternity in the United States becomes the president. Look at that. Have that vision.
Vision. Yeah.
Don't close your vision. Close your eyes on Kashmir. Have that vision. Open your eyes to that vision. That's my request. That's my submission to all of you. And don't take my words that lightly. Dr. Pandita is just daydreaming. No, there's nothing to daydreaming. This is possible. This has been done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead.
So
It reminds me of the words of Guru Nanak ji, who said that, he blessed one community and said, "Go scatter in the world."
Acha.
So
yes.
He was visiting a village, and one village just denied him the water and whatever. He said, and the other community gave him everything. And when he was walking away from that area, he turned back and he blessed the community who didn't give him anything, deprived him. He said, "Okay, I bless you to stay here." And the other community who had given him everything, he said, "I bless you to go and be scattered throughout the world." So that's our blessing. That is our blessing. He said, spread the love and, spread whatever you have to give to the world. And that's why we are here. Wherever we are in the world, we have to strive to do the best with Mata Saraswati's blessing on us. And we see that how many CEOs, how many, the best careers that this generation.
Correct.
After 1990, where
this is the beginning.
This is the beginning.
This is the beginning of a great story. This is just the beginning. This is not the end. This is the beginning. And I'm reminded of a verse of Mirza Ghalib, the great Indian poet. It's in Persian. You will not understand, but I'll tell you the meaning. He says, Ismail was the son of Abraham, and he disobeyed.
Yes.
He refused his religion. So that is the background. So Ghalib says, Baman Miami's a Pidar Farzand Azar Rabiga. Oh, my father, don't quarrel with me. Look at Hazrat Ismail, who left the religion of his father And everybody who becomes Sahib Nazar means one who has the
One.
eye to see. जो भी कोई साहिब नजर बनता है वो अपने बुजुर्गों का रास्ता पसंद नहीं करता, पसंद नहीं करता. So
And he does not. Okay, okay.
so
Very nice.
live in
So
modern world,
you
live in future, live in future, don't live in past.
and create your own path to success, each one of us.
Yes, find your path,
Find your-
carrying your candle in your hand. Find your path.
But carry our sanskars with us.
Sanskar makes you
Pan sanskar cha suit having.
sanskarish paknawa,
Sorry,
sanskari pakna
Paknawa.
atkom. You have a great thing to do, great achievement you have to make. Your community, our fraternity. They are not small people. They are not small. They are youngsters especially. They are full of vigor and zeal, and they will make it. They will do it. And now this young man who is the candidate now, presidential candidate from Gujarat,
Mm.
we can have people like that, like him.
Kuschu.
So,
American
Modi-
presidential candidate, this who is running for the
So Governor Vivek Ramaswamy chana.
No, no,
Vivek
Suna.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
I'm going to withdraw.
Magar
Has
Nikki
withdrawn.
Haley,
Okay.
Nikki Haley chewing.
No, Nikki Haley chewing. Magar Vivek
Anyway,
Vivek.
I didn't know that he has withdrawn.
Broad kun paka.
Yes.
Kun sat aas
Paka.
aise Vivek Ramaswamy badla call ya ka dhar.
Darasha.
No, I mean, this is like, so I always, so a lot of my friends tell me ki bhai, Kashmiri Pandit community also has to go to Kashmir every year. And जैसे Israelis, they do that. Jewish people do that. And they go, यहाँ से जाते हैं. मुझे लगता है the challenge for Kashmiri Pandit is that India has grown economically so much in the last 25 years. And Exodus people after 1990 have done exceedingly well in India. So they don't want to look back कि मुझे कश्मीर में जॉब करना है या मुझे कश्मीर जाना है. Bombay, Chennai, Bangalore, and Singapore, wherever they are going.
That's
They can go
he's saying. He's
as
saying
visitors.
Yeah.
world,
As
yeah.
visitors, they can go with a bit of nostalgia. They can go
Nostalgia.
move about. There's no harm in that, in going
No.
with that nostalgia and looking at those
Looking.
mountains, and that's not a big thing. That can be done.
That can be done. Chalo Mara, this conversation has been such an eye opener for us. So much you have shared your experiences. It is for us a learning curve, and we will have you back in this conversation in future. Tamizakaro Bay, Brotkun Wichauke, Bay Kya discussion is must haven. So you have spoken in Farsi, Galib, a lot that interests me and Sanjay. So we will carry this conversation on. And we were going to, of course, talk about your, being born in Baramulla and now with this book about Dr. Tamiri. I think that we'll carry that on with our next conversation with Dr. Saab when we have him on the program.
Yes.
And we will know so much more about our the events leading to our genocide, even if it's not accepted by the world community, but we feel obviously that there has been a systemic ethnic cleansing and genocide since 1947. So that will be our next conversation. I do want to thank everyone who has joined us today on Facebook and my team here. I do want to thank Sanjay ji, Neetu ji, Indu ji, and Anil ji. But most of all, Namaskar Kashi ji, my sincere thanks to you for coming on this program and spending some time with us, sharing your experiences with us and the community. And there is so much to learn from you. And I hope that we can carry on this conversation.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Archanaji. Thank you,
Namaskar.
Sanjay.
Thanks.
So
Pleasure.
kind of you. So
Pleasure.
nice of you. We
Privilege.
had a good talk.
Yes.
And we can talk more, but I have Dr. Tamiri has agreed to come online.
Yeah.
So you'll fix up with him.
I will.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll be calling him.
Because I have a vision that if this book is properly popularized as it should be,
Yes.
we will try for UNESCO award for this book. That will be the first
Excellent.
step. I know some people in UNESCO because I worked with them. I know some of them. We will put it for UNESCO accord. That will give us a step
Up.
for genocide program, which there are many friends in USA who are still running after this program, and it should happen sometimes. We will do that. So thank you very much, and my thanks to listeners
Yes.
all over USA and wherever they are. We have done a little bit of spade work. Kashmir history is a huge thing, and our history is a huge thing. Very little has been said, and perhaps this will be an curtain raiser, and others will come, they will add to it. And thank you very much, and have a nice evening. No, it's your morning.
It's our morning.
You have a nice night. Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With your blessings, we'll meet
Blessings.
again.
Yes.
Namaskar,
God bless
Sarni.
you.
And have a great Sunday. We will be soon publishing this interview to our listeners.
Okay. We don't have time. Otherwise, I would have allowed some questions. We don't have time.
Next time, I promise you, Kashiji, we'll have you back. At that time, we'll open the forum to Q&A.
Questions also.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Salwana,
Namaskar.
namaskar.
Bye bye.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.